Good time. Jerry, how'd you do, buddy? You feel good? Wasn't too easy, wasn't too hard? I'm sure it wasn't too hard for you, stud muffin. All right, gang. So let's start question number 1. This is from, who is this from? Todd. I will not be able to watch, but I have a few questions. Okay, what advice would you give to someone who wants to establish him or herself as a professional, specializing in training the older adult populations? What can I do when people think of older adult trainers, specialists, and then it makes my name pop into their heads, all while working for someone else, training older populations, patients, and groups? So the best answer I can give to how to establish yourself as a quote unquote expert working with the older populations, especially as a younger professional, is through credibility of your service and your education level. I found it early on in my career very difficult for older populations to trust me, even in the initial consultation sit down, because they're like, you're a young kid, what do you know, right? I have a little bit of an in because as my physical limitations started to build up from back surgeries and lung cancer and thyroid cancer and hip replacements, I earned credibility with that older demographic. So as soon as I kind of told them those stories, they're like, oh, you get it. You know where we're coming from. And so that gave me an in. So short of telling all of you to go throw yourself down a flight of stairs, hurt yourself, and then rehabilitate, the idea is empathy. You need to learn how to empathize with this demographic, because the majority of them are coming in with some kind of limitation, typically a medium to a major limitation. And though they're not bound to physical therapy, getting stronger and being able to build, strength and stability and reaction time and core and capabilities and all that with you is going to help them overcome that. So there's this gray line of like, are we doing physical therapy or are we just strengthening weak areas? It's kind of the same thing. I look at it as, is it in my scope of practice or not? And if it is, I can just help strengthen weak areas. If it's not, I need my PT to help me. So I want to use all of that, my personal experiences, my education, my ability to empathize and understand that they're coming in with these limitations, that I know a great deal about it. I've researched, I've studied, I've worked with people previously who have had these limitations, or, I don't know much about that at all. I have this great physical therapist that I work with who's going to help guide us and teach both of us how, I should program. And I always follow that up with physical therapist and myself. We all do the exact same exercises. I know how to do internal, external rotations. I know how to do RDLs, reverse hypers. I know how to do everything that they prescribe. I just don't know what to prescribe. And that's the beauty of physical therapy, is like, we're all using the same tools. I just don't know which tool gets this job done correctly. So if I don't know the answer to your limitation, or I don't know a way to empathize with you, I'm going to use my therapist to help connect those dots, because now they're going to feel like a level of comfort knowing that I'm working with someone who does have that experience, and that, I am plugging in their information. So you either learn to empathize, well, you do learn to empathize. You either have the experience either yourself or with other clients that you've worked with, or patients, depending on who you're with, and use those as resources to say, here's the successes we've had and so on. Or you surround yourself with a team that's going to help you deliver the right service. Counselor, we have a dietitian, we have medical professionals. In California, we have multiple different systems. There's Kaiser and Sutter and UC Davis, and there's all these different medical centers around here. So I typically that can either give me direction with the client or connect me to their doctor, and at least give me some opportunities to, to discuss with them what we should be doing, shouldn't be doing. Is client capable of being here? Should they be monitored by you? Do I need to give you notes and feedback? Like all of that. So now we're trying to encompass that full team approach, the full body, full health approach into helping these individuals get better, right? And in that process, we're having opportunities to be successful. And so now we're going to use that experience as here's what my client could do before, here's what they are now, here's the experiences I had, here's the ones I've had now. And you start to use that as your credibility line to showcase your skills and showcase your successes. Ask your clients to give you, reviews or testimonials, the word I was looking for, that will, kind of discuss their experience with you and showcase you as an expert. And once you have that little bit going inside the gym that you're in, because he asked about, doing this under someone else's business model, you need to become known as the expert for older adults in your gym. And then once that's established, you can kind of reach outside your gym and you're bringing in other people. People are coming in going, hey, I've heard about this person. I've heard about you. I think I want to become a member here so I can work with you. And then that reaches beyond the city. And so now you have to do external, coaching and some online education. And that works out regionally and then nationally. And then eventually further on and you're Todd Durkin, and then you're Alan Cosgrove and Mike Boyle and Dan John. And, you're these big international names. Okay. So very long answer to a very simple question, but it's all about empathizing, credibility, and education. And if you get those three things really working well for you, it doesn't matter what age you're at. And as long as you're humble in your approach with people, you're gracious in, your ability to work with them and show a lot of gratitude in the fact that they're going to put their trust in you, I think you should have very good success there. How do you best implement some of the stuff you do, the 5 components, in a community group setting? 5 to 25 people. Well, 5 to 25 is a lot. Populations, I can do 4 to 1. And what I mean by older populations is my biological aging clock, like where I look at somebody and I'm like, ooh, you're borderline physical therapy or borderline one-on-one. I can handle like 3 or 4 of those types of clients. And I'm not going to say 80 to 90 because I have 80-year-olds that are badasses and I have 60-year-olds that move like 90-year-olds, quote unquote, right? So the first answer is you need to know what your number is. You need to know how many you can handle and what kind of coaching you're going to deliver to that group. So if I have individuals that are fall risks, they can't get to the floor, they can't get their arms over their head, they're frail elders is what the terminology technically declares them as. Because of those first 3 things, they can't move load well, they can't get to the floor, and they're fall risk. That technically is a frail elder. I'm going to take 3 of the 4 to the 1 me. Now, if I wanted to add more people to that, I would have to add another coach. And so I would bring in Marcus, or I'd bring in John, or I would just schedule people into another group and I would do 3 or 4 people at 11 and then 3 or 4 people at 11:30 or however I want to do that. The question is between 20 and 25 people. I'm going to assume if you have 25 people in a group setting that these are like 40 to 70-year-olds who are all fairly capable. In that type of setting, it's a very difficult thing to answer. It depends on the equipment you have, their ability levels, the environment that you're in. 25 people is a lot. I have a hard time coaching 20, and that's really expert level clients, what I'm calling them. People have been with me for 10 years or more. We do like our community workouts, Valentine's Day, Labor Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving morning, New Year's, those kinds of workouts. I'll get 20 or 24 in. I'll have 12 stations, give and goes with partners, on and offs, take it, leave it, whatever our format's going to be. And that is challenging for me with expert level clients. So 25 people in a group environment, that's more like group exercise where everybody's going to just kind of follow what you're doing. And I don't really know if that's best bang for your buck or if we're even talking about the same service anymore, but I still have my 5 components. Looks like my mic died. You guys hear me now okay? I'm glad somebody said something. You hearing me now okay? Yes? Okay, good. All right, sorry. The mic died. So yeah, the numbers you need to have a number that you are comfortable and capable working with, and then add one at a time. I was saying I booked 2 clients at 9 o'clock, and instead of saying like, oh, I screwed up, they both showed up and they're like, I'm at 9, and the other girl goes, no, I'm at 9, and I said, we partner workout. I totally did this on purpose. I thought you guys would really like this, and I just kind of made some stuff up on the spot, and they actually really liked it. And then they asked to just keep doing that. And then as they, kind of got better at it, they added in another person. I had another client who saw me training the group, and they're like, that looks like fun. The girl that comes in after me, our kids go to school together. Could the 2 of us train together? And so then I had another group of 2. Now I had an hour that just opened up because my 8 and my 9 bumped together. And then my previous 10 and 11, they bumped together. So now I had these 2 hours open. So I could get into new clients, put them in there, started 2 new groups. And the next thing you know, I had, instead of 10 clients in a day, I had 20, but the same amount of work time. And I had 2 people in every hour. And then that turned to 3, and that turned to 4. And in the gym that I was in, the country club, there was so much equipment and so much space, but we had so many members using that space at the same time. And it became an issue where I was kind of not hated, but I was seen as like a real pain in the ass trainer, because my 4 clients and I would come in and kind of take over a spot, and we tried our best to rotate with them and such. And that was really in 2008 what encouraged the, I'm going to leave unless I can get my own space. And they built my own space, and then kind of off we went. So the rest of that led into our own facility, and then, where we are now. So you really need to start it small, get really good at training one, and then add as you go. And then your level of expertise and the things that you're known for will speak for themselves. You don't really need to boast or promote too much, especially in an environment where there are already customers. Like if you're a trainer inside a box gym or a country club, the people are already there. You just need to showcase that you're really good at what you're doing, and attention will be brought to you. Okay. What are your favorite books in relation to training and mindset? Training wise, I can't talk enough about him. I know we just interviewed him earlier this week, which was a highlight of my career, and it went so well, and he was so cool to talk to. I was a little nervous thinking, would it be awkward or goofy? And we started talking throwing right away, and it was just like downhill, easy, like I'd known him for years. I have known him for years. We've never had an interaction like that before. And sometimes the interviews, first time you talk to somebody ever, it's kind of goofy, and this just felt so comfortable. And I felt like I knew him already from his books. I listened to all the audio ones, so I hear his voice and go through it. And I absolutely love that. Thomas Plummer has great information, great books on how to train. On the business of training. Alan Cosgrove, Lou Schuler on programming and running semi-private business models. Very good books there. Education-wise, I like a lot of the training the senior populations. The NSCA and Human Kinetics have teamed up. Thomas Betchel and who's my other one? Darn it, I can't think of the other, but Thomas and Betchel come together to make the first one, and then there's a second edition and a third. And the third edition, there's a new author who's contributed to that. Those are great books. They're very research heavy. So when you have those clients that are like, why are we doing this and that? And you can kind of spout some statistics. It's full of that. Why do you want me to only come in 3 days a week instead of 4? Why do we train for 40 minutes? I want to do an hour and a half. Like it gives you all that information to be able to make a good argument, a good discussion for why you want certain things done in certain ways and so on. So I think those are great. Kevin Mullen makes a really good book. It's day-by-day trainer tips. It's every day. There's, 800 or 1,000 words that he wrote on a daily checklist of things to think about as a trainer, something to implement in your business that day, a philosophy and program design. It's almost like a calendar book. Like every day you open it and read it. It's fun. There's some great stories and goofy components from clients who, do things you're just like, no way that just happened, all the way down to really good business practices and marketing components and campaigns that he's done. So that's a good one. I'm trying to envision like my book my shelves next to my bed. A really good one for me, this is an older book, but it's called the Body Wise Female, because I don't know what it's like to be female, or to be female going through 50s and 60s, and then early onset of menopause, and then post, going through special populations as a female of having babies, any kind of disease, male or female. It discusses that. Youth, mental disabilities, all that is really kind of discussed between the NSCA special population book and the Body Wise Female. And that gives you a great idea. We talked about empathy earlier, trying to understand. Another in that I had my thyroid taken out and my parathyroid taken out because I had a Hashimoto's tumor that was completely taking over my thyroid and growing into my sternocleidomastoid. And so they had to take a chunk of that and remove the whole thing. And because of that, I don't regulate heat all that well. And so I jokingly call it menopause. And so I tell old ladies, specifically, 60, 70-year-olds, when they come in for their first consultation and sit down, they go, "Boy, do you always keep the gym so cool?" And I joke and I kind of tell them the story. And I said, "Yeah, I have menopause. I usually keep it around 68, 69 during the summertime, which is pretty cool. And we'll keep it at like 62 or 63 during the winter." And they, "Oh, that's great. I'm going to be comfortable. I don't want people to be miserable, having hot flashes and all that." And so that's another kind of empathy component right away. They know that I'm going to do everything I can to keep the environment cool for them. So when, not if, but when those hot flashes do occur, especially when they're training, it gives them some good opportunity to feel like we're taking care of them. And it's a good way to kind of break the ice and kind of joke with, some of the issues that come with aging. Okay. So those are about it for the books. There's a ton outside of fitness. There's a book called, I just lost the name of it. It's Insanely Simple by Apple. It's about Apple, and it's the general manager that worked with Steve Jobs. And he talks about how Steve said, the very first phone, it needs to be so simple my grandmother can use it. And I don't want it to be advanced. I don't want it to be tricky. I want to do insanely simple well. So well that anybody can do it. And that philosophy in the design of system, it really connected with me of how can I make my programming really, really simple, but super effective. It doesn't need to be super advanced. We don't need to have tiers and periodizations and all this for people that are just in life. They don't have culminating events. They don't have seasons. They're probably going to program breaks in themselves when they take vacations. If they're sick, their kids got a graduation, they're taking a week off. Like those things happen. So I don't need all that. I just need to do really simple, but really good, effective, the best bang for their buck kind of programming. And Insanely Simple, that book really covers it well. It's Kevin Sutherland, something like that, something along those lines. It's a really, really good book. Not Kiefer Sutherland, something like that. But that's a great book. That's probably one of my favorite non-fitness books. And then there's the whole list of 7 habits for, yada, yada, yada. There's a billion of those. And those are all great. I have a hard time reading something that is not specific to my efforts. And that's why I love the fitness and the fitness business books, because those individuals are taking the lessons they've learned from Tony Robbins and all these others, and they're already doing the work for me and manipulating it into the world of fitness. So I understand that a little bit more. That's why I like Rigsby and I like Scott Rockcliffe and those individuals that are very smart in their field of marketing, online social media, and business, but they're also in the world of fitness. So it just clicks a little easier for me. I really enjoy that. Another one is the E-Myth, the contractor's version. It's yellow, it's small, you can read it in a day. Really gives you great inside explanation and information of what it's like to run your own business as an independent, especially for someone like Tony that is running a business inside someone else's business. Even if you're an employee, you're still kind of your own business, and you're starting to see things a little bit differently. You're starting to see how management sees you, and then eventually how you're going to see yourself, right? And in the beginning, we're so like, I'm focused on me, I'm focused on my money, I'm focused on you don't really think of like, what's the business investing in me? How much space am I taking up in this building? How much equipment did they buy specifically because I requested it? Like you start to look at the whole thing? What kind of taxes are they paying for me? Did they have to up their liability insurance because I needed a high intensity area and I had to hang CRXs from the ceiling? You know, like you start to look at that more than just your blinders of I want it this way. I want this for me. Okay. All right, Kara. So we're 5 questions in. Kara said, I have a client that recently it keeps talking about her SI joint issues. What are your top exercises that you would recommend for strengthening this area? So because I'm not a SI joint expert, I text our expert, Dan. I texted him at 5 o'clock this morning. And where is he? He sent me some really, really great information back. And I'm just going to read that to you, and you can take it for what you want it to be. Where are you, Dan? I sent out, there he is. I sent out all of my workouts this morning, so I've got a whole bunch of text in here. Okay, so he said, good morning. The SI joint is pretty tough, and it's complicated. There's no real muscles that cross into it, so it's typically hard to stabilize it. You do want to avoid any split stance positions or step ups, single leg exercises, because it will add to the strain until established strength is developed. Stretching is pretty specific, depending on the pull or the stressor to the pelvis, and in which direction the stretches causes pain or discomfort. But in general, a good hip flexor stretch, a good quad stretch, at the same time is the pigeon. Okay, the pigeon is where I can't demo it because of my hips, but you can Google it. You can look at it on there. You're in a plank position. You pull your front leg in front of you and you lay flat down on it. Okay, and that's your pigeon stretch. And he also said exercises like Superman's, back extensions, planks, and band hip exercises will help build strength that helps stabilize. No twisting. Double leg exercises are ideal in the beginning versus single legs. So I knew the pigeon stretch was going to be one of the ones that he advised. But outside of that, I was like, I don't really know. You know, your psoas stretches will address that a little bit too. But Dan's our best expert for that. I'm still trying to line up one of our trainer talks with him. Because their facility is shut down on the sports side, their PT side's high, and they had to minimize their staff down really low. So he's working more than ever right now because he's still on and seeing clients every 45 minutes or so for all their post-op and immediate like emergency pre-op clients. So I'm still trying to line one up with him, which I think would be really, really great. Dan speaks trainer, which is cool. Like most PTs, you talk to them and you're like, you talk PT. I don't know if I talk PT. I don't know if our languages are the same. And then you'll be like, oh, but this guy talks strength coach. I don't know if I talk strength coach. So it's like periodization, rehabilitation, general fitness. And we all are speaking a different language, even though we're using the same terms. It's rare to really find a way to where like everybody says the same stuff and you're all on the same page. That's rare. So when I found Dan and we both spoke the same language, right? We're training and teaching people to be more athletic, even if they're not athletes, even if they're pre or post surgery, if they're not athletic at all, but we want them to perform life better. That's what clicked for me. And I was like, that's my guy. That's who I want. And I've connected with other PTs, other clients that insisted on using other people. And every time I do that, I meet them and I'm like, you're okay. But now I'm just even more in love with Dan because this is not ideal. It's not, there's old styles of PT. There's non-traditional styles of PT where people are experimenting and doing stuff that maybe isn't ideal. Dan's just the right fit. So I really encourage all of you. I know this is off topic a hair, but you got to find the right PT to work with. You really need one. You can't do it yourself. You need that person that, is working with someone pre or post op. They're going to give you direction, or it's just outside your scope. And instead of turning them away, you just have them go see your guy or your girl, have them see a session. That person gives you a report back and you're golden. That's all you need. You just need a prescription basically to go from that. Okay. All right, Kara. So there's your SI joint. All right, Harold. Oops. Uh-oh. I got a runner. Harold. There we go. Harold sent me, oh, that's from Mary. As I say, I got kisses and hearts from Harold. That's from Mary. Okay, Harold says, what are your thoughts about using a 4-foot dowel rod or a broom handle on the back of the head and the lower back to help the client develop their hinging abilities. So this is like the FMS test, where you're going to take the dowel rod, and you're going to take the dowel rod and hold it against your butt and your head, and that's going to keep you in a straight line while you're doing your hinge. So I don't see a problem doing that with individuals that are capable of doing that. But the majority of older populations we're going to work with, they don't hip hinge, they round, and the second they start to make that action forward, you're either losing contact with the head because they do forward head thoracic curving, right? Or they tuck their butt. And so all it's going to tell you is they can't do this. You know, like I don't know if that's going to be a very efficient or effective tool for you to see other than they can't do it right. If you want to try to measure it in like degrees to see where they are, and then 8 weeks later retest, you could record that and see if they're getting better. But as far as like teaching the actual ability to hinge, I don't know if that's going to help you get there. We had a really good talk with Evan Osar yesterday, and he talks about filling the cylinder and then moving the cylinder forward. So you're teaching displacement of the entire upper half, not so much displacement of the hips pushing back, even though it ends up being the same action. This is kind of a different way of thinking about it. And I think once you go through those steps, and if you didn't get a chance to see that, watch Evans. I already posted on YouTube, and it's on demand if you signed up for it yesterday. He'll kind of take you through those steps. I would teach your clients that first and get them to work on that cylinder tilt action. And then you could put the dowel or the PVC on them and see how well they're able to, emulate or create that action. Then you could record that or measure that and then use that as your testing tool moving forward. With those that are capable, I think it's a great tool. I mean, it definitely gives you your points of contact, and it gives you a visual right away if they're doing it right or not, if they're overarching, if they're swaying their back, if they're tipping their head forward. Like, it gives you great opportunities to feed cues to your clients. I think it's a good tool. So yes, I don't think you're going to do anything wrong with people or put them at risk. The overhead action might be uncomfortable for some people to try to pull forward on their head. Other than that, I think you're fine. Can a client be vertically loaded? Okay, sorry. So for clients that cannot be vertically loaded, how can you train their lower body? That's, a pretty open question. That's a good one. My answer is going to be bridging. And I was in this boat for a long time. There was a 2008, after my back surgery, I talked about this a little bit earlier this week. I had to create a program design that would make my back stay stable. I didn't want to use machines because I couldn't sit comfortably. I could lay down with my knees bent comfortably. So I basically was on a pulley system. You guys know the full pulleys. There's a pull-up bar in the middle, and then there's a pulley, right? And the up and overs. And so I created an entire program just for working in that area where I could be stable. My butt, both ischial tuberosities and the iliac crest would contact the floor. I would hold that position. I'd have both feet, both shoulder blades in my head. And I could do upright rows from this cable. I could do lat pull downs from this cable. I could do bicep curls. I could do pronated pull downs or neutral grip pulls. I could do tricep kick downs. I could do high angle rows from an angle. I could do single arm rows, single arm presses, single arm curls. I worked a Peloff press, but at 90 degrees. So I'd pull the cable pulley straight out and I would just hold it up in front of me for core strength. Like, I designed an entire program that was specific to not allowing vertical pressure on my spine and not having me seated like I am right now at 90 degrees in the back, because I didn't want to feed that limitation while rehabilitating my back. So if we could take that same implementation, knowing that maybe the client doesn't need surgery, they're not post-surgery, they're not extreme as I was, but vertical loading them is bothersome. But horizontal loading, like, I'm 6'3", so I have 6'3" of pressure plus gravity and all that pulling down. But if I turn myself this way, from my belly is my widest point, probably 20 inches, right? 18 inches, whatever it is. That's now the pressure being placed down on my spine horizontally. So my vertical force is gone, and now I've got just a little, like a slight shearing force going down through, my vertebrae, technically horizontally, even though I'm laying back and it would be vertical, right? So in that position, I could train, bridge, foot elevated bridge, shoulder elevated bridge, hip thrust, body weights of all those, add bands, and then add consistent load, and then add bands and consistent load. And you can load those up pretty high, hundreds of pounds. And at some point, the hip thrust is going to be the one that eventually is going to, at the flexion, the deep down position, it is going to, like a ramp, right? It is ramping weight down into the crease of your hip, and it is going to traction your hip and your spine. And technically that is giving you some vertical loading force at the bottom. But then as you bridge up, that force goes away. So if it's the last thing that I teach, bridge, feet elevated, hip thrust, and I've had the opportunity to develop strength, develop range of motion strength, from origin to insertion rather than insertion to origin. Basically, I'm just flipping my angles of pull. If I've had the opportunity to develop all that with just body weight, and then develop it with bands, and then develop it with light consistent load, and then heavier consistent load, and then bands and consistent load, like I've gone through my progressive steps, my spine should be able to take that deep hinge. But if I just jump straight to hip thrust, then I'm probably going to feel repercussions from that: sciatic discomfort, ischial tuberosity ischial issues, labral issues. You're going to have you're going to have some sensation of not dislocation, but like subluxation in the hip. If you have impingements or bone on bone issues, you're going to feel grinding, and then you'll feel a traction of that at the deep end, and then it'll thrust slam back together on the up. So it can be more damaging in that case. You have to be progressive in nature when you build that up, and you have to give your client the opportunity to build strength and range of motion and stability, but also give you feedback as to what it feels like. So anything beyond like a yellow band, which is 60 pounds, doubled is 120. Anything beyond 120 pounds on a hip thrust for me, I get negative return. I get sciatic discomfort. My hips don't feel stable. So I work with like the red and the blue bands. These are the Rogue bands. My home bands are Rogue bands. The gym ones we use perform better because they're more comfortable for our clients to hold on to. I hammer my bands. I use them a lot. So we use the Rogue ones here. They're a tiny bit more durable. And so I know my range, and I can glute bridge like crazy. I can feet elevated bridge with bands only up to blue, and then I can hip thrust with bands up to yellow, and that's it. I can't really do any consistent loading, meaning a 40-pound bag, it's always 40 pounds on me, right? I can't do any of that with my back and my hip issues. It's just uncomfortable. I start to get, I call it the yellow light. I start to get this numbing, tingling sensation. It's a warning of like, you better stop. It's going to hurt, you better stop. And if I continue to push that, then I'm going to throw my back out. There are slight subluxations of my hips because I don't have a labrum anymore. When you have hip replacements, the socket is basically stuck into the fake acetabulum now, the cap. And then there's a little ring around that kind of holds it, but there's still a lot of play in there. And the labrum back in the day, it was a mushy, lubricated material that would create that tension, that suction, and keep it really tight. Now, if I'm laying down like on a bed and my kid tries to climb up on the bed and grabs onto my foot and pulls, technically if I'm relaxed enough and they pull hard enough, they can dislocate my leg, right? It'll just slide right out. So with that in mind, like I just can't put that kind of load on there if it's not in the perfect spot, in the right angles. Like it's just those learning experiences for me. I know where my ranges are. And I'm sorry to reflect everything back to me, but it's what I know best with training wise of these limitations. So that's why I use it as an example. You got to know what those are for your client. And the best way to do that is just irritating question and answer over and over again. What does this feel like the next day? What did you get? Did we get any sensations? Did you feel any of this? No. The next time we up a little bit, did you this? No. The next time, yep, that was a little too much. I'm aggravated. Now we know the range, and it's not like we're trying to cause pain or discomfort, but I got to know where this is so I can progress it. And then we know like what their ability level is, and I can try to train through that. So it's just learning those bits and pieces really to eventually see if you can vertically load. My ability to vertically load is very limited. I've had other clients with hip issues, surgeries and such. They're very limited. I've had others that have gone back lifting more than they could before. It's just person to person. And almost every question you guys ask me, I could just say it depends on the person and the situation. I'm trying to give you the best answers that I can, but you never know. Okay. All right, this one's from Mary. She has a few questions. I have a client in her 40s, very active and really wants to do burpees. Ugh, what's wrong with her? When she's in one of our classes, she's having trouble making the transition jump in from the plank position to a low squat. One of her legs kind of drags. The other side is fine. She did have an ankle fracture on the side that drags. She also has difficulty maintaining a V-sit position with her feet on the floor during her pound class. I'm assuming that's either a fat loss poundage or pounds, meaning they're lifting. I'm not sure. Says that the front of her hip cramps up. Any suggestions would be appreciated. So first part of that, jumping in from the low squat, usually that's an active insufficiency issue. So she has jumped out. She's trying to get her hip flexors and her core to pull her feet back in. But because she's in this hinged position with her feet jumped out and the musculature is not strong enough, or it's just slightly on slack, it can't pull her feet all the way in without recruiting from something else, which in that case is typically the lower back. It's the iliopsoas that you're going to start yanking on, and the lumbar L3, 4, 5 are really going to start to hurt. So a simple fix for that, if she's just hell-bent on doing these, we call them McCheaters. I had a guy named Michael, but his nickname was Mick. And whenever we would do burpees, he would basically go down, jump out, jump in, and jump up. And the time it took everybody else to go down, jump out, lay down, get up, and come in. And I saw so many people rounding and, doing the seal stretch coming out of their burpee. And though how much I coached it or cued it, they were just getting tired and it just got ugly. And I'm like, we just can't do burpees anymore. And then I watched Mick, and he just jumped into the push-up position and then jumped right back. And I thought, I like that. We could do like 2 to 1. So if I was having them do 10 burpees, we'd do 10 McCheaters, we started to call it. And I said, Mick, you're cheating. And he goes, I'm a McCheater. And off the name went. And so that became an exercise for us. So for those that can't get to the floor and they're still having the same issue, laying down or not in the burpee, just elevate them. Put her up on a sandbag so she's 6 or 8 inches higher. Put her on a bench, a plyo box, something that she's just a little higher to where she can still do the action, right? But she has the contractibility, the ability of the musculature to engage enough to help jump her feet in and get her into the right spot. She's not so deep in her squat now, which might be troublesome for her to get out of the bucket because the squat's just too deep. And then we're going to round the back and et cetera. Same things are going to lead. So I'd say elevate her a little bit and see if that doesn't help. And then the ankle fracture, she could have a potential. You're talking about a drag. That's typically like a back, lumbar, sciatic injury somewhere along the line that's no longer sending the signal to be able to dorsiflex well. So if you envision like 10 puppet strings that run from your head, down your spine, out the side of your butt, down your leg, all the way to your foot. If I were to rupture one of the discs that goes around that and it pushed in on some of the strings and neutralized them, one of those strings might be the one that says, pull your toe up, dorsiflex, right? So you get a lot of individuals that have toe drags. You'll see it on their shoes, a whole wear, and as they step, their shoe goes bup, 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 and it drags along. And even though they're actively trying to pull their foot up and to do it right, that signal is just not getting there. And it's from a herniated or a ruptured disc that is not allowing that signal to get down there. So it could be something along those lines, or it could be as simple as she had the fracture in her ankle and the range of motion is just not there anymore. And so when she's trying to pull her foot in, either she doesn't have the strength to pull the dorsiflex and so the foot drags, or there's a stability issue in the ankle and it's just flopping around as she pulls her foot in. Early 40s, clients in her 40s, mid to early 40s, how important are burpees? You know what I mean? Like I would just maybe kind of have the talk and just be like, I don't really know if this is all that important. I could have you do squat jumps, I could have you do push-ups, and we're going to get both ends of that without that transition in the beginning that's probably jacking her up.
I don't know. I know you get people in the minds and the groups, and they're like, I want to hang with the group. I want to stay with my people. I want to do what everyone else is doing. You got to have that ego talk at some point and be like, I don't really know if this is a benefit anymore. I know you just want to keep doing it, but I can give you some other stuff that's going to be pretty hard, you know? But it takes them out of the routine and the group. So you got to weigh that kind of stuff. But whenever people kind of get worried about those situations, I go, ultimately, this comes down to you are paying me as an expert to advise you on how to do things. I'm advising that we don't do burpees, okay? That you allow me to teach you to do these other actions. And that usually kind of brings people back to that mindset of like, oh yeah, you're right. I am hiring you to try to teach me to do this right and not hurt my body. Every once in a while, you'll get that person that's like, I'm paying you, you'll do what I tell you, and I'm done. I am so done if we get to that conversation. Your money's not worth that attitude in my life at all. And I've had it there, and it was huge regrets, and I'll never go back. Money's not that important. And I can even say that right now when we're not making nearly as much as we normally do in this whole lockdown. Still not worth it to me. It just screws with your life. It screws with the people around you. It's not a good environment to have around you. It's not good energy. I'm a fan of good energy and positive people around me. And we get rid of that stuff if it's not there. Okay. What resources would you recommend for new trainers? We talked quite a bit about that, mainly to work with women between 40 and 70. I love what you're doing with the older population. So inspiring. Heart, thank you. I do appreciate that very much. And I would say those same books, same ones I talked about earlier, especially that Body Wise female one. I think that one will help quite a bit. Okay. I don't mean to poo-poo your question away, but I answered it earlier. I know you're going to watch this on the recording. So I would definitely check those books out. I think they're going to give you some great answers. All right, Jackie, floor bridging. How important is height of the bridge from the floor? I have a client that has a low back issue, and right now, I have a client that has low blood pressure, and right now I'm working on postural correctives with Evan and Evan Osar, and all the mobility work I've learned from you. 2 sessions this week, and that's all we've been doing. But when he tries to elevate his feet, he starts feeling it in his lower back. Says it's very tight, and it's very tight, but not a stabbing pain. So LBP. So I'm assuming you lower back pain, not low blood pressure. Okay, my fault. I get my acronyms mixed up. So low back pain hurts when you elevate the feet. I would advise that you're elevating the feet too high or they're butt humping. Height, ideally, like the best example I can give you guys. Okay. So we have boards of different lengths here, okay? Boards of different lengths. And if I'm to pivot one of these boards in action, all the way up and return, or the longer action all the way up and return, there was no play in the center. So it shouldn't matter as far as the structural support goes, if it's shorter person or a taller person or longer lever or shorter lever, as long as it all stays in one action. When I try to lift the bottom half, but not move the top half, I start to bow the board and eventually it can snap, right? So you're going to get the same action with the back. If I can go from my pelvis to my shoulder blades and the base of my, T5, T6, right around there, and use that as my foundation, my platform, if you will, my shoulder blades locked in, and lift my hips like a wheelbarrow and return. If that action can continue to happen with my feet on the floor or with my feet on a box, then ideally the leverage system from the spine shouldn't matter. Now, we're not talking about load. We're not talking about work output. We're not talking about any of that. Obviously, all that changes. What I'm talking about is the structural support of the spine. It all has to move in one piece, okay? So if you butt hump, which means your shoulders and your chest don't move and you just tuck your butt up in the air like you're trying to hump the ceiling, right? If that action is happening and you're rounding your lumbar on the floor or with your feet elevated, either one's going to bug you, but imagine with your feet higher, that increases range of motion. So it's giving you more butt tuck and more butt hump and more opportunity to round your back and hurt it. So my advice is master bridging with the feet on the floor first, get really, really good at it, then add bands around the knees so your abductors are on, then add self-anchored bands where you're pulling the band over your lap and you're holding it with your arms. Look at all the video yesterday with Evan and I, you'll see all those progressions that I give. Then go to a consistent load, a sandbag, sandball, whatever it is you want, put that on your hips, add that weight up, and then eventually find like a moderate weight with a band. And if you can overcome all of that, everything's moving in one action. You're leveraging your wheelbarrow and lifting it all well. If I can do all of that, and I feel strong and it feels good, and I'm not ready to jump up to hundreds of pounds or super bands, gigantic bands, then I can go back to step one and elevate the feet, right? So in my answer is basically maybe we're just jumping to feet elevated too soon. Because if they get back pain and back discomfort immediately or right from the get-go, it's not stabbing, piercing, but it's achy, I don't think they're ready for it yet. That would be my advice, is just back off things, get better at the basic step before it, and you've got so many options in between there, right? Especially in the environment we're in now where you can do your one-on-one coaching. Maybe they don't have sandbags, so you can get some more volume component to it, add a couple of bands, add a couple pieces that way. Remember the little bands, you can loop them together and make 3 of them, a black, a blue, and a green, loop it through itself, and you've got a super band, right? And you can self-anchor that. You just got to take them apart and put them back together. But it gives you an option as a self-anchor band. And that can be kind of that in-between missing piece. And then when you do decide to elevate onto a textbook or a 2-inch foam pad, an Aeronex pad. Don't go to 6 or 12 inches. It's just too big of a range of motion, okay? Baby steps are great. And if it's one side over the other, you can also do a staggered, where my right foot stays on the floor, but my left foot goes on the 2-inch pad. And then I will bridge that action, building my elevated hip extension strength a little more, and then I'll switch it and build that strength more. So if you have a muscular inequality, and that's where we're compensating and trying to use our back more, I can work on those independently without just defaulting to a single leg glute bridge that's going to definitely overload their back, right? So it's kind of that happy in-betweener, and that guy can help you seek some more muscular equality before you add more height to both feet. So there's lots of options, okay? Lots of options that you can look at. I hope that helps, okay? Same client, seated abduction works, and he feels a pulling. We're doing seated abduction work, and he feels a pulling in his lower back. I'm following your protocol order, which is forward for 20, upright 20, lean back 20. Again, I'm guessing the tension in the band is too much. We shouldn't be recruiting from, it's the QL, and it's like the lower erectors of the back. They are going to basically wrap and try to help the abductors pull your hips out if they're too fatigued. And so what happens is the client says, this is pretty easy, I can do this all day. And so what she's talking about, ooh, that was terrible, sorry. So what she's talking about is the series we do where we put a band around the knees and we lean forward about 2 inches and we pull apart abduction for 20. And then I sit up straight and I do another 20, and then I lean back 2 inches and I do another 20. And we always do that order. It's a very long explanation of active insufficiency. You can see it on my YouTube. I'll talk all about it. But basically, we're on slack, a little less slack, and almost no slack. And we're fatiguing as we do it, so we're taking advantage of the active insufficiency early, and then we're fatiguing and moving to a more efficient position later, right? So as I start to fatigue and I get more tired, if the band is too much for me to overcome, I have to start recruiting from somewhere else, and the back is the #1 option to do that. Your QL is a lateral flexor and or an extensor based on if you're going forward lateral and then up extension. It basically does the sideways actions, or it helps with extension of the hip and rotating of the hip in the back. So basically, you're just kind of recruiting from like over the top of your kidney to help you pull into position. It just means it's too much. So they're either doing too many reps or their bands are too tight. And I've done it before where I'm like, I'm going to hammer my hips today. I'm going to use the black band. And my second time through, I feel myself like rocking with each rep, trying to get momentum to help me. And I start to feel my back in that. It's just too heavy. It's that ego moment of like, I'd rather him do the green band, go down one and do a third round of it until you build so much strength where he's just like, this is cake. Then we'll try one set with the blue band and build up from there. but we can't recruit from the back or else we're defeating the whole purpose, okay? Basically telling them that we need to try to keep going, tightness versus pain. I'm doing rep counts that you suggested. Should I back those down? I don't think the rep counts are probably the issue. I think it's the amount of tension you're placing on them. Remember with bands, there's always tension, right? Unless you're in complete slack, but there's always tension. You're recruiting to more and less and more and less, but how much is more and less, we just don't know. It could be 40 pounds with me and you do with me right next to me, the same band, but your legs are shorter and your range of motion is shorter. And so are you doing more work than me? No, I am, right? My range is bigger, my extension is bigger, even though we're using the same band. But we could both just say for us, the green is working, right? That's the hard part about bands, is it's really hard to measure success with them. So we have to say, are we achieving the rep counts? Are we achieving the range of motion? And is our comfort level acceptable? And if any of those are no's, we've got to back something off and change it. You either need to change the angle of attack, change the tension of the band, or manipulate the movement itself to make sure you're not causing more pain or aggravating more pain. And remember, not everybody's going to be able to do every exercise I tell you. And there's going to be some clients that are just like, my back hurts when I do this. I would love to do reverse hypers, guys. I would love to do it. I see the benefit in doing it. Can't do it. My sciatic nerve instantly aggravates no matter how light, even if I deload my legs, like a band from the ceiling hooked around my feet so my legs are lighter. It's that action just crushes me. And to the point where I throw my back out when I attempt to do it. I can't do a Superman, not one. I can't even demo it without hurting myself. And it's just this exposed location that I just can't. And every PT looks at me and goes, you should be able to do it. And I'm like, why? Why should I be able to? Just because you want me to be able to, right? But there are some things, I just don't like the taste of tomatoes. Quit putting them on my plate, right? This is me. Not everyone's gonna, well, if I prepare it differently, and if I don't like tomatoes, just piss off, right? Like that is my aggravation of exercise. You are going to deadlift. Why? Teach him to hinge, teach him to bridge, teach him, because he's got to pick up his shoes. Yeah, but not with 200 pounds on his back or 200-pound shoes. Like, Jesus, seriously, let's look at the actions and the movements needed, not force an action to occur. I had a client who was like, I'm never touching a kettlebell again. Kettlebells hurt me. And I said, all right, let's go grab a 20-pound dumbbell then. And they're like, okay, cool. And I had them do RDLs with the dumbbell and single leg RDLs with the dumbbell and replacement squats with the dumbbell. And I'm like, so you think any of that would have been different if your handle was parallel versus neutral holding the dumbbell and a kettlebell? And they're like, no, I guess that was kind of dumb. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the implement. It's not there are just certain movements that if you do them wrong or that your body is prone to, it's going to hurt. It's going to injure, no matter how remedial we make it, okay? I can't do handstand push-ups, guys. Like there's just certain shit we're not going to be able to do. And it's okay for us to check those off the list and to say, not going to be able to do this one. Let's work on something else. If it's not a primal component, squat, up and down off the floor, reached overhead, walk, kick transfer, self-sustained movements like your ADLs. If it's not those primal basics, why are we forcing? And I think that's like a big piece that comes to this. Well, Robert said I have to do this, or we want to be able to address this. Let's be creative and rig something different to maybe address the same limitation to improve that area. Or, if it's not like I have to be able to get my shirt on, I can't move my arm, it hurts, let's forget it. That one is one we need to address. There's certain actions that our clients just aren't gonna be able to do, or they hurt them a lot. Let's not aggravate it. Let's not poke the bear when it comes to that, okay? There's my rant, my tirade for the day. Sorry, Jackie, you got one that has been waiting to come out for a little bit. Okay, that's all my printed ones. Let's go on to, I had quite a few emails and then I'll get some of you guys too. Let's go since you guys are on here. Let's go on here. Heidi, what is the best way to attract new older adult clients? Best way to reach them? I've tried hosting free seminars, presenting at Parkinson support groups, and even had an article published about me in the local magazines. All produced maybe 1 or 2 clients. Well, environment, vodka and orange juice, by the way, great post-workout. I'm kidding, it's just orange juice. It depends. It depends on your environment of where you're at. There's going to be certain marketing tools that work in certain areas of demographics, okay? And again, going to use myself as an example. I apologize. I have a family member that no matter what I call to talk about, the next comment is, I've had that happen to me, and I get this whole story about them. And I was like, I called to talk to you about. So I really bothers me when I do that. I catch myself doing it all the time, but I don't really have another example to share with you at this point. Okay. My dad is a marketing director. And he said, you want new clients, you just opened your place, you have to do a mail out. So we spent $1,500 making a mail out, another $1,500 mailing out, what do we do, 2,500 postcards to everyone within a mile and a half of our environment. How many leads, how many new calls, how many? Zero, to the point where we called the post office and said, did you guys mail them? Because we didn't get one phone call, and they're like, no, yeah, they're all gone. We sent them out. We guarantee it. And we had them like searching around the post office to make sure they went out, because we couldn't believe it didn't generate one new person, not one. $3,000, all of our time, all this, nothing. Then I had a free article published, not even a free article. I commented in a article about hips and what are 4 exercises that you could do to strengthen your hips. And it was published in AARP magazine, which is a national magazine. And there was one line. There were 4 pictures of the exercises, maybe a paragraph that explained them, and then one line that said, Robert Linkle, owner of Be Stronger Fitness Sacramento, advised us on these exercises. That's literally all it said. And we had over 30 new clients, not new leads, new clients come from that article, and probably another 20 lead opportunities that came out of it. Emails, phone calls, text messages, walk-ups, all from that. It was a 15-minute conversation I had with a guy on the phone. He sent me a picture of the pictures they were going to put in and said, does this kind of match what you were thinking? And I said, yes. And that was that. I mean, that's the most efficient, most effective, but it worked in our area. Everybody was over 65. They all got that magazine. They all apparently had hip issues, and away we went. So I wish I could give you, Heidi, I wish I could give you one answer and be like, this is the thing. You got to just keep trying different pieces and see which ones go well. I am a huge fan with this demographic of finding referral opportunities, not lead opportunities. I don't want first-time strangers coming in. I really don't. I want people that have worked with my clientele and their coworkers, family members, etc., and they've heard about me through them. So I want to give those people opportunities to come in. We host socials. We do free workouts. I do education events. We do a fall prevention 3 times a year. We do a low back seminar twice a year. We do a cognitive behavior event once a year. Dan does a physical therapy on taking care of your shoulders and how to ergonomically set up your vehicle for your back and your hip safety. John does one on healthcare. I forget what we call it, but like smoking, drinking, vaping, tobacco chewing, like any of the vice kind of issues, the ones that are like autonomic because we're bored, snacking, nail biting, that kind of shit, like the stuff that like we incorporate as a regulatory component of our day, that it's just done autonomically and we don't realize how much damage it's doing. So he does on that. Like we have those, that was, I don't know, 7 or 8 things that we do right now annually. And all of those bring in 1 or 2 new clients. But I look at it and you go, oh, 1 or 2. Well, that was 8 things. That's 16 new people. Each of our clients stays for 3 years on average. Each client spends $250 a month. So average client's $3,200 a year. By 3 years, that's $10,000. By 16 people, that's $160,000 over 3 years. That's worth it. And I know half of those people are going to stay for 10 years. Because our majority of our clients stay like 6 or more. The average client stays for 3. So you kind of know those odds and you know your stats. And it's like, if I can get a chance to get 1 or 2 new people from every one of these events that I do, 4th of July, we do a hero workout. Memorial Day, we do a workout. We do Valentine's Day, strengthen your relationship, where you get to bring in a partner. It doesn't have to be your spouse, but anybody. And we do give and goes. Thanksgiving morning, we do a donation where you bring in whoever we're partnering with, Goodwill, SPCA, whoever it is. You bring in something to donate. You and your partner get to work out for free. It's just opportunity to expose them to us and to let them see and kind of get an experience. Then after that is done, we say, we love it that you came to our free event. We'd love for you to come back and experience one of our regular workouts. Here is your coupon for that. And then I would like to schedule a strategy session and initial consultation with you. Can we do that now before you go? And so now I've got them on the books, ideally, to come in on Wednesday after the Sunday workout or whatever it is. They're going to come in and do that, sit down, and they're going to meet with me because the majority of our clients, when they bring in someone, that someone has expressed interest. So they're not just coming in to get the free workout and run away. They're looking for a new place to train, and they want to come and try it. And so this is the opportunity to do that. So now we've done that. They had a great time because there were 20 other people, and I'm yelling, and it's themed, and there's music, and they rah-rah. And then when we get done, like, what's a regular workout going to be like? They're not all like that. So now let's schedule that, get that on the books, and I want you to feed into that next week, getting another free workout in session with me. So now you've had 2 free opportunities, which I'm okay with. A lot of people, a lot of business coaches don't do anything for free. Your time is valuable. If I know I can invest 2 hours, which is 2 hours I'm going to put in anyhow. I've got that group and I've got my other group. If that's 2 hours I'm going to invest anyhow, I just have to work a little harder during that time for the new person that's in. And I have the potential to have them stay for 3 years. What are we talking about? I'm fine offering that service for free. Where I could see it becoming an issue is if you're a one-on-one trainer and you're constantly giving away free one-on-one sessions, that's an extra hour. Then I can see it adding up. But it's no more time commitment for me. It's just more effort in how many people I have to coach. Introducing a new person into a group that's already established, that's a lot of work. Okay. So very long answer. As usual, I'm long-winded, but it gives you guys some ideas. I wish I could just say, do this, it works with everybody. It doesn't. From one zip code to the next, they could be totally different. You got to just keep trying, different stuff. So I hope that helps. And even though you're doing stuff and all of it's produces 1 or 2 clients, that's great, in my opinion. It's when you have efforts and it keeps producing zeros, that's when it sucks. If one article gets you 2 clients, that's a huge win. You're not looking at the long-term investment of your average client and seeing that turnaround. What did that article take you to write? Hour or 2? Okay, and you got 2 clients out of it, and your average client stays for 18 months, and the average client pays $200. You know what I mean? You start doing the math, and you're like, well, I got paid like $800 an hour to write that article. It's pretty good money, right? It's worth it. It's worth it. We just don't think of it that way, okay? All right, next question. Just wanted to say how much I appreciate the time and the information you're giving us. I enjoy your webinars and learning so much. I have not had a chance to look at the last couple of days. Did you post the webinars from Friday so we can rewatch them? If so, thank you very much. Yes, all of the previous webinars that we've done this whole last month, they're all on my YouTube page, up to Evan yesterday. This one will go up later today. And they're all on demand as well. So if you guys got the link when you registered, you can always just watch it right there. But they're all on my YouTube. Just subscribe on there. I've been putting up new stuff. Obviously, with the speakers, we put up a new one almost every day. Rigging with Rob is scheduled to start next week. So there's a new Rigging with Rob every week that comes out, and we're going to have a guest speaker once a week, if not once every other week. These have been so popular, and people have enjoyed them so much. And I've had so many experts in this industry willing to give their time to come on. I want to just keep doing it. I'm going to keep taking advantage of the opportunity to learn from them. You guys can watch me do it, and I'm taking notes, and I'm not writing down questions. I'm writing down notes that I already have my questions written up. I mean, I learned a lot from Dan in that last session. I learned a lot, with Evan yesterday on, different cylinder components, different cues I need to be using, stuff like that. I'm a student just as much as you all are. And because I'm in an environment right now where I can't go to the conferences that I had scheduled, which for me is my therapy. That is my break from, as much as I love my family and as much as I love my clients and my environment at the gym, going to a conference is my reset button. It revamps my energy and my excitement for training. It revamps and energizes my excitement for life and my energy. I get away from my family for 2 or 3 days. And so I'm pumped and excited to come back and see them. It's that recharge that I need on everything. And, with the last year of our business and everything changing, I didn't get to do that for like the last 8 months. And this 3 months right here was supposed to be the time I had 6 events or 5 events scheduled, and now they're all canceled. Now I got to do it all digitally. So the only way I can get that fixed, that little relief of time, is to do events like this with these folks. where I can learn and I can get recharged and I can start to learn more. So instead of going out to events that I can't do, I've been bringing little bits of events to us, right? Is what I'm trying to do anyhow. So my point being is I'm enjoying it. I'm going to keep doing it. And as long as you all keep signing up, I mean, we're averaging like 55 people at a webinar, which is great considering, I mean, we're not FAI or anything where you're getting 1,000 on there. But to have that many people on there shows me that there's interest enough to keep doing it. So I do appreciate it. I appreciate you all, contributing and being a part of that. Patricia, what do you feel is optimal time for a session, one-on-one? I'm in a 55 and over community and work part-time in our facility fitness center. Ideal situation, I like an hour, but I like to build up to an hour. And that's from start to finish. So they come in, they have 10 or 15 minutes of primers and movement prep and warm-up stuff to do. And we teach them all that in the beginning. And then that kind of becomes autonomic. They just follow the boards and they kind of do that as we come in. So let's say our session's at 10. At 10:20, they're done with all that stuff. And now we can train from 10:20 to 10:50. So there's my half hour of work. And then I've got another 10 minutes or so of cool down, mobility, balance, coordination, hand-eye, whatever it is I'm going to do at the end as kind of like a cool down. So that gives me a full hour, but really intensity and, effort and focus is really about 30 minutes. And then as they get more experienced, we're talking with like the very first time client ever, they might do the primers, mobilities, and then go right into a cool down and we're done in 30 minutes. And then the next time I see them, we add a little bit of work in there and we're done in 35 minutes. And then the next time it's 40 and the next time it's 50. And then 3 weeks in, we're up to an hour now, right? And so I might do that for a couple of weeks and then we build up to a point where the primers and the warm-ups are kind of getting done in like 10 or 15 minutes. And now I've got a 40-minute session, right? I can back up that time. And now from, 10:15 until 10:50, 50, I've got all that time in there to train them. But I'm always gonna have time for my primers. I'm always gonna have time for my cool down. Those parts are important. And knowing what environment we're moving into now with our social distancing and having to keep these hard stops on schedules, I'm gonna have to be even more precise with that. I used to do a lot of overflow where, clients would come in at 10, they'd start at 10:15, we'd go till 11:05, but the other group came in 10 minutes early. And so, I'd have 15 people in there at once. We're just not gonna be able to do that now. So we're gonna have hard stops and hard starts that we're gonna have to kind of keep a little more scheduled, but that, that's just better programming on my end, more efficiency with time management. So that would be my answer there. A group or one-on-one, it doesn't matter. I think that's probably a good way to progress and start people off there. How do you explain how to open or flare your sit bones when teaching the hinge properly? My sit bones. That's an Evan term, that's for sure. That's not a me term. I'm meat and potatoes. I'm like, stick your ass out. I definitely focus a little bit more on that terminology. He gave a very good explanation of that yesterday. Of when you displace your hips and push them back, that gives you an eccentric stretch through your hamstrings, which kind of ties over the top. So it pulls down on the ischial tuberosity, which is the sit bone origin for the hamstring. And then the glute kind of wraps over the top of that. And so if you displace and push back too far, it actually encourages your pelvis to tuck under, unless you have like the cognitive awareness to really unlock your pelvis. And I know it's a little graphic, but it's like cheeks up, right? Like truly stick your butt up in the air in the back. Until they have that cognitive awareness and that neuromuscular component where their brain can say, turn the pelvis like this, that's a hard component to teach. So I like that cylinder approach of like, let's set the posture, let's set my upper half of the platform, let's tilt it over. And once I'm tilted, and then I lift my toes up and kind of shift my hips back, I should feel that hamstring lock in. On the ischial tuberosity, I should feel it lock in. And that pelvic tilt is then accurate. And so eventually they kind of find that like medium pattern where they set up and they go into their hinge, and then instead of just tilting forward and then leaning back a little, they kind of tilt forward and lean back at the same time. And that's what you will see as your kettlebell swing, your fast RDLs, your rack pulls, all that starts to develop. So I'm a big cuer of that pelvic tilt, cheeks up, let your hamstrings expose, and your hamstrings will tell you when you've reached your max end. And once they stretch out, the only way to get deeper is by tucking your butt or by rounding your spine to get lower. And we know in both cases, we're going to cause more harm than good. So it results in the same action that both Evan and I coach, that Ryan Glatt and I coach, that Christian Thompson and I coach. We all say it in a different way. Displace the hips, hips up, cylinder tilt, pelvic tilt. It's terminologies that we all like to use. My favorite is the file cabinet drawer is open and you're hinging in front of it and you want to push it shut with your butt, right? So displacement of that hip will teach you, I'm going to have to counter by sitting forward, but I also have to push my hips back at the same time. Because if I just push my hips back, I fall over. If I just tilt forward, I fall forward. There's got to be this happy, medium where I'm able to pivot on my axis, and both of them are going to find center where I just don't tip over. So I don't know if that's a easier way to explain what you just asked me, but it gives you a little more background as to where I kind of come from when I'm trying to teach that hinge action to people. And in most cases, we've had weeks to practice the hinge action on the floor before we go to do it vertically, which I think is a really key component, because you're not vertically loading and we're working more mobility in that horizontal plane. I know that's not a real thing, but in the horizontal actions, we're working that pelvic tilt and teaching that action without any pressure on it. And so they develop the mobility, they develop the cognitive awareness to understand that neuromuscular movement pattern. And then when you ask them to do it standing, it usually comes across pretty easy and pretty quick. Okay. Hopefully that helps you there. All right, Patricia, I have a 92-year-old client with bad knees, but no surgeries ever. Her knees crack when standing and sitting, stepping up. She says they don't hurt when doing the exercises, but the crackling really bothers her. She has convinced the doctor, convinced the doctors, and they will not address it because of her age. Any suggestions? There's it could be a tracking issue. It could be an arthritic component. Most cases, if cracking joints and popping joints don't hurt, they're not making anything worse. In most cases, there's always exceptions. If it's just bothersome via the noise, that's just something you kind of have to deal with, especially for someone who's 92. I don't know if you're going to be able to fix that. It's a little late, the bus is, or the ship has sailed, or whatever the saying is. And not that we don't want to try or we're going to give up on them, but there's gas releases. When you do your knuckles, that's gas release. Tracking issues, especially with patella, any of the floating joints. If there's bone buildups, calcium deposits, any of that, and something is tracking just slightly different, every time you bend it, it'll boop, 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 boop. There's just a little pop. You can feel it in your bicep tendon a lot. If you swing your arm and there's any swelling, if there's any buildup in the musculature or any buildup, calcium deposits, or the interventricular groove starts to shallow from years of tracking improperly, you'll feel it go boop, 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 and it'll just pop back and forth. Is that causing damage? Most cases, no, unless you're feeling pain. Is it annoying and bothersome? Yeah. It can be terribly bothersome. I've got some clients where every single time they bend their knees, no matter loaded or not, it cracks and it pops. It's just the makeup of their knee, unfortunately, and where they are at with what they've done. A lot of times you talk to those individuals and they were, 100-mile cyclists. They were putting in 400 miles a week for 30 years. They ran 25 marathons. They climbed they were these extreme use athletes that did all kinds of damage. And now when you get them, 50 years later, you're dealing with the repercussions of what they did to themselves earlier in their career. I'm sure at some point in some life, I'm going to retire or whatnot. And I do believe that trainers need trainers. my wife pushes me and coaches, me while I train, and we encourage each other. But I'd love to work with somebody at some point that I feel confident working with. And I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch of stuff that's just going to drive them nuts. And I'm just going to be like, look, man, this is the way it is. It's been 50 years like this, throwing the hammer and this and that. My back's trashed. I'm on my third set of hip replacements at 80 years old because I had them when I was 35. Like, it's just going to, you're going to carry this baggage with you. I hate to tell you, like, that it is what it is. I cannot stand that saying, but in this case, I don't think there's going to be much you can do. If pain is involved, I think there is. That means that something's really wrong. And it could be tracking issues or arthritic components that you can try to improve. But if not, I don't know if there's much to address. So sorry, wish I could be more helpful on that one. Heidi, I have a client that's 75 years old, slightly overweight. Her movement is very stiff, and she claims that she can never feel her glutes. She feels everything in her lower back. I've had her do glute bridges. She does claim to feel her glutes, and she says, I think so. But having her do monster walks or lateral walks with a circle band loop around, she just feels her back the whole time. Some with using cable attachments around her ankles, doing leg extensions and curls. She doesn't seem to have range of motion in her hips. Ideas, please. Boy, that's a good one too. Greg, can you do a webinar on warm-ups that you do with your sessions? Yeah, I'm actually, Heidi, I'm not skipping you, but I just saw Greg's pop up. I absolutely would love to do that. I've created a whole new series of primers and warm-ups because everything we had before, it was done via distance, space, transitions among people, as an athlete would do, like at a track. And because where we're at now, I've changed everything we're doing where it's all done right here in the spot. And so I have a whole new series of primers and a whole new series of menus and preps and such that are going to address all this stuff. So once I kind of get all that finalized a little bit more, we've been practicing here now for 5 weeks. I want to just really get that dialed in. I will do a presentation on that because I think that would be pretty pertinent to the time that we're in right now. So Heidi, your 75-year-old client that can't feel her glutes. So there is the saying of gluteal amnesia. And I'm sure you've all kind of heard that and had that terminology thrown around before. The way that it was presented to me and the way that Dan talks about this is that if you were to, you build so much muscular dominance on the secondary or the tertiary muscle that's supposed to be secondary or tertiary. You've created it as the primer, right? As the primary. That the primary muscle basically just shuts off and it's like, I'm out of the loop, right? So I'm trying to think, like, if you were able to just shut your deltoid off and just say, like, bicep, lift my arm up. If I just did supination every time I did an arm raise overhead, my bicep would do the majority of that action until the last 20 or 30 degrees, right? Then the deltoid would just never learn that it's supposed to do that action. So I think with a lot of people that have just sat from a very young age on, they maybe didn't do any athletics, or their athletics didn't require glute or hip extension, right? It didn't require them to fire that musculature. And then anytime they go to pick up anything, move anything, do any yard work, they just round over and use their back the whole time. Like, their glutes just don't know how to fire. There's just, that action is just not there. It's like if you didn't learn certain words for something, you would see it and be like, I don't know what that is. I don't even know what to attempt to call it. Like, there's certain math components that I see and I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's not an S. It's a triangle with a fucking line over it. Like, I don't know what, like, it's kind of that action where it's like the glute doesn't know. It literally does not fire. And I've seen, like, the electromagnometer, the sensors they put on the musculatures with individuals like this. And it's like when they try to do a deadlift, instead of displacing their hip and allowing their hamstrings and glutes to essentially stretch and fire, they basically just go, I got this. And they grab it and they pick it up, and it's all through that lumbar spine. And so the glute just doesn't know, like it doesn't know how to initiate. It's never had to fire. And so that becomes the issue with this individual. This is the person you now inherit. And you're having to like go all the way back to the basics of like, let's learn how to breathe, let's learn the basic ideas of how to do this action. So if you're doing like a monster walk or a band lateral or seated abductions, immediately you're trying to overcome the leg and the load, the tension that you're putting on it. And that can be too much. So some actions that you would want to try are just leg raise exercises. I call it the Fonda series because it's all inspired by Jane Fonda and her original stuff that she did like back in the day, right? So you can do things where it's just being straight leg raised and you're stabilizing the holding the hips to make sure the hip does nothing. And just have her dorsiflex and just knock these guys out and do like 20 and then just do a hold. And with their permission, of course, you're gonna like feel it, like hit it and be like, I need that hard, and squeeze your ass and just like hold this position until she's just like, oh my God, this is killing me, right? And as long as it's not her back, she's doing it right. As soon as you get to the point where she's recruiting from her back, she has reached muscular fatigue of the glute and the hamstring basically, and now she's recruiting somewhere else. So as soon as you hit muscular fatigue, stop. Because now the secondary and the tertiary muscles are like, I got to recruit the help because the first one's done, right? She's defaulted to the second and third all the time now, where the primary doesn't know. So we have to go back to the basics of a straight leg raise, a hold, a lateral slide out, going out to the side, okay? A lot of glute there. You can hook little tiny super bands like orange ones on around her foot, and you hold it on this side and have her do this action out to the side, stabilizing her hips to make sure no action's happening. So there's no band anchored to them. The band is just looped. And as she does the lateral slide or the lateral extension, you're holding the band and seeing the action. As soon as she says, I'm starting to feel it, you just move the band in a little and take a little tension off. So you now, you've regressed the tension to allow the glute to keep firing rather than the secondary or tertiary muscle groups, erector or QL, to take over and try to help. So you got to go all the way back to the basics and just like teach the butt how to fire again. I have a client right now who's a gluteal amnesist, and we've had to go back to the basics, and we use really simple cues like when I was a kid, this is terrible, I know it sounds bad, but it was credit carding. It was a joke where you would, it sounds really bad, but people would do this to each other, their friends, of course, and it wasn't sexual harassment, but you would poke somebody between their cheeks and they would squeeze their butt cheeks together and like you were trying to hold a credit card, right? And so you would be like, credit card, and you'd poke their cheek, and then they would be like, oh, you want me to squeeze the butt, right? I know, I'm sorry. I know it's terrible, you guys. Please don't teach your clients that. But if you're anywhere from being born between like 78 and 85, you know what credit carding is. And it was just a joke. It just teaches you to squeeze your ass cheeks together. And so we have to go back to like that, where, and she goes, oh, like if I were holding my car keys with my butt cheeks, sure. Whatever you want to hold on to, right? Whatever that cue is like you have to learn how to like clench and retract your cheeks and then let it go. And then contract and let it go. To the point where you can see them. I'm going to do it right now. You guys ready? So I'm contracting. Watch my head. Do you see how I'm moving up and down? That's ass cheeks on, ass cheeks off, ass cheeks on, ass cheeks off. That's all butt. All I'm doing is activating my glutes, clenching my cheeks and returning them enough to where it elevates you, like moves you. And so now your amnesia is starting to fade and you're like learning, oh, that's how I fire my glute. And then you can work towards raise the roofs, which would be the next exercise because you're working a higher angle now. So knee bent, bump the heel up to the ceiling, and eventually I hook a band around both knees while I do that. So I progress that load. And then you would kind of build your way from your raises to your lateral raise, your raise the roofs, you're working your isometrics where you're squeezing your cheeks together, teaching their butt to fire again. And then deadlifts, RDLs, some of your more eccentric stuff where you can have them stretch it and then come back up. like swings and that kind of action way down the road. I wouldn't do any of that because all it's going to do is make them default back to their back again. And if you can get them to learn how to be gluteal dominant when bridging, you guys know those little slides you can put on carpet, and like you'll see people do like push-ups and stuff where they're sliding their arms apart. Put those under her heels while she bridges. And if she's a quad dominator, which I guarantee she is, her feet will slide away while bridging. But what you want her to do is pull her heels towards her while bridging. And all of a sudden, the very first one, you'll see her go, oh, and she'll grab at her hamstring. And that's probably the first time her hamstring's ever fired to help her lift. And then you'll see them grabbing at their butt. I saw one lady, Betty, 93-year-old Betty, her very first bridge, every single day I see her grab her left cheek. And she goes, oh, it must be working. I feel it. It's just this little tiny cramp of that muscle going, oh, but for 92 years, she's never fired that muscle, I don't think. So that was the long answer, but I think this happens to a lot of people is they don't really know, how to contract that. And you have to go back to some of the foundational roots of credit carding to teach your clients how to, please don't, to teach your clients how to like fire their glutes and to learn how to, be active. So, yeah, back to the basics. You have to, a lot of your clients, you have to. Yes, Patricia, that's a good one too. That's a very good one too. I'm not going to say that out loud, but that's a good one too. All right, any other comments? Todd, I got Todd laughing, that's good. Any other questions? I had a few more that came in via email. I know we've been going for 90 minutes here. I appreciate you all being on here with me. Let me look over these here and see. Todd, I see questions from you here. I'm wondering, okay, when you incorporate reps and sets from a mini macro cycle versus reps and sets from a strategic progressions for individual components, how and why are they different? Oh, so great question. So in our TOA program, I have a mini macro cycle, which is programming for the primary lifts. I call it the meat of the program. So if we're gonna do rack pulls today, and we're gonna do inverted rows, and I wanna do pullovers. Those are like my three meat and potatoes, my big primaries. I have rep counts in my mini macro cycle for all the volumes, rep sets, loads, tempos. I have built all that into like 12 weeks or 16 weeks, depending on which one you're looking at. When we go component by component though, in the other webinars that I teach, I show like rows and I give programming for that, hinges and I give programming for that. I'm talking about them not being in that mini macro cycle, if it's not the meat for that day, okay? So if you're gonna do rack pulls and rows for that day, what reps and sets and loads and all that are you gonna do for your presses, for your overhead actions, for your split stance, for your loaded carries? That's when you look at that other menu. And so what I was trying to give you is I can give you like the ballpark, the main idea of the programming. And then if you had to teach each piece independently, or if you have a client who's severely lacking on one of these, you could have a progression, basically another, I hate to use the same verbiage, but like a mini macro cycle that just addressed rowing and just addressed hinging. So that's where they differ. And I just wanted to give you a linear progression of volume that would result to success is basically what the target was with that. And you could look at your program and be like 4 sets of 8 and do all of your programming that day for 4 sets of 8 and your people will get real strong. But what about the muscular endurance component? When are we doing a high intensity interval? When are we going to do a burnout? When are we doing a finisher? Those volumes have to change. And that's where some of those other pieces kind of come in. I also have a mini macro cycle for finishers, for burnouts, for high intensity. Those are little pieces, menus that I can use for each one of those components of the workout. We have volume controls in another little mini macro cycle of our warm-ups and our movement preps. So it just kind of depends on what piece you need. Again, it's that cop-out answer. It depends on who you're working with and what you're doing, but it really is that. Like, it depends on each piece that I need to target for that client. And then what menu should I pull from? You can't really go wrong with just following the main macro cycle. It's simple and efficient and proven. I've done that mini macro now. It's on its 5th generation, and I did each one 3 times before I improved it. So I tested, I retested, I re-implemented and retested, and then I made a new one and made it better. And so that's 9 months, and then another 9 months, and so it's 45 months of programming that we put into that to get it to the point where it's at now, just so I can say it's a pretty proven program. I'm not going to say it's the perfect one for everybody, but for generally speaking, working with older adults for the meat and potatoes of what you're doing, that's a pretty good program. So I'm going to say you can't really go wrong with that. Okay. Number two, do your training groups progress through the macro cycle together? No. As in, does each group have the same focus reps? No. So I've been training you for 4 years, and then Kim comes in, and Kim starts today. Am I throwing her right into the same stuff you are? No. But am I regressing her all the way back to step one? No. There's the way that I have to look at it is, how can I do like the basic simplicities of the same purpose in which you're training? That's where the art of personal training comes in. You're both here because you have bad lower backs. You're both here to improve, your quality of life, and you're both here to lose some body fat. Why would I write 2 different programs when you're years apart in your training? I can just increase intensities, loads, tempos, recoveries. I can change and manipulate my volume controls, but not necessarily have to pick different exercises, right? Rack pulls are for advanced, and then I can do band pulls with beginners. We could do goblet squats with heavy load and a band. I could do a sit and stand with a beginner. It's the same action. It's just I'm sliding the scale up to the more advanced ability, right? So that's my job as the trainer. When we talk about the personal training component, that's the personal scale that I have to look at and say, okay, I can do one workout and create one program that's going to last 12 weeks that's specific to this training intention and this demographic. And then I'm now the judge to say, where do each one of these need to go to best fit that client? If you can't do a hex bar deadlift and we program that day, but you can do rack pulls, then I'll pop you over to rack pulls. It's just too broad of a thing to be like, everyone does this or everybody doesn't. You're going to have people with all these different abilities. And so then it gets a little muddy, and you're like, well, now you've got all these people doing different pieces. Like we talked about, only start with one person. And when you can master that, then bring in 2. And then when you can master that, go up. I'm at a point with my career and my program and my abilities and my comfort level and my people where I can take 8 people and I can basically run 8 different programs with them if I needed to. I can do that. I'm not bragging. I'm just, it's so comfortable, and it comes to me, I have the ability to do that. Typically we don't. Typically I have like 4 doing one and 4 doing the other. Or we all do this main little bit, and then I have separate little goals. I'll have 2 clients that are golfers, they'll go do that. 2 clients that are skiers, they'll go do that. 4 other clients are endurance folks, they'll go do that. But we did the first piece, the meat and potatoes, the mini macro cycle main part together, and then their training purpose was the piece that stemmed out. So I got comfortable to the point where I can do that with 8 people now, and I can program and coach and cue and slide and rig and adjust and manipulate all that and feel very at home and very comfortable and confident doing that. That's me. That's my ability and almost done. And the support time, she's come out here to give me the look of like the kids are driving me nuts. I know, I can see you. Yes. So I'm almost done. We're halfway through. We're an hour and a half in. We're halfway through. That's part of her presence. Like, I'll just make myself known. I'll come out here real quick and go back, and that's my little alert of like, you better wrap shit up. So, Todd, hopefully that answers your question a little bit, my man. Like, there are coaches out there that are like, I built the system. This is the way to do it. Just do it my way. I guarantee a result. And it's not. My people are different. My environment's different. My philosophy is different. My strategy is different. How can I like teach you a system that you can kind of manipulate your way? That's what our TOA does. That's what we're doing at the mastermind, or not the mastermind, the mentoring session in 2 weeks. That's the goal, is to like, let me teach you how you can funnel down your philosophy into a system. I'm just going to teach you a system, right? I think that works best. On the other side, I could just say it's different for everybody. It's just going to have to then I give you nothing, right? So I'm trying to kind of thread the needle and like give you the best direction that I can. But really it is, there is this halfway in between where it's like, I've got a good system that works for most, but it depends on the person you're working with too. I want to teach you systems where you can develop that pretty well. And I can't answer that in 5 minutes or 10 minutes as I do with all these answers that quickly. So hopefully, I hope that gives you some direction. I don't mean to short you on an answer there. Robert, so, okay, so one of our last ones here. We'll wrap up in just a minute. If anybody else has like a super pressing question, go ahead and shoot it up now, and I'll try to get you. Watching Dan John's webinar yesterday or Monday with you, he talked about why he doesn't like to prescribe lunges. I didn't hear him give the explanation of that, but I know you asked him. What was the answer? So he discussed that he never really felt like any of his athletes or any of his people came back to him and said, you know what really like got me over to the next level were those lunges that we did. You know, he never had anyone that was really at a great, like super good comfort level where doing split squats and lunges was effortless and easy or not uncomfortable, you know, didn't cause some knee pain, some issues. He more or less, he felt like there was more risk versus reward with implementing those. And then I asked about step ups and I said, do you feel the same way about step ups? And he said, yeah, kind of, you know, a little less, but still kind of. The lunge was really the big one. He's just like, I just don't see if I'm only going to have somebody twice a week and we're going to not waste time, but spend so much time trying to get them to be comfortable lunging when I know I could do so much more they're already comfortable with or get so much gained out of the others that we could do that. And, you know, I look at it as a split stance as an action and then loaded carries as another. And he kind of merges those together where a lot of the actions like pushing the prowler, carrying different weights up and down hills, walking backwards up and down hills, like those are his split stance exercises. And you are split stance, you are transferring load. There's a good complex or combination of the two, and I see it his way too. But I'm also working with individuals that are trying to still accomplish abilities, meaning they want to continue to hike and they want to continue to do, you know, some different athletic movements where I feel like there's going to be benefit from us doing step ups. I don't really split squat or lunge a lot of our clients anymore. Our younger clients, yeah, like our strength and conditioning groups, we do a split stance, split squat, lunge every day of some variation. But with my older populations, I don't really lunge any of them. We do gate steps, loaded transfer, prowler pushes, those are big. And then we'll do step up variations because we still do steps in life. I still find that to be a pretty applicable component to train. And if you don't practice that, I think that's a skill that, you know, it can be left behind if not trained. So pushing the prowler does teach me engagement. It teaches me to drive. It simulates what my body would do if I were sprinting uphill or pushing uphill, but it doesn't really teach me contralateral weight transitions in an ascending format or a descending format, right? So that's stepping up and down stairs if you're walking up and down a parking garage or in your house or your apartment. Knowing that's such a big component for what older adults do, I feel like that needs to be a trained component. So really when I have split stance on there, it should really say step ups and prowlers, you know, and sleds, that kind of thing. Basically anything split where you're not lunging more or less. But then again, we do lateral lunges because I feel like you get a great relief at the knee laterally lunging, but huge exposure of the hips and the back to help increase ranges of motion. And it's an action lateral that injury and falls occur. So you're training a prevention component to do that, right? You're training them to be strong at catching themselves laterally and then practicing that action over and over again. So I see value there. Really, it's just lunging, progressive lunges forward are kind of the one thing that we don't do. And same answer that he gave, it's because of how much pressure at the knee, how difficult it is to perform it correctly without getting that pressure at the knee, the transitions, the long gate steps without people falling over, etc. You know, you're only going to have 2 1-hour sessions or 3 half-hour sessions. Where are we going to spend the majority of our time? Trying to coordinate that or doing some other stuff. You know, you're the expert. You're going to decide where that goes. I see his answer. And he said multiple times, you're welcome to disagree with me. This is just what I believe, and I get that. Probably one of the best talks I've ever had with somebody. I really enjoyed it. I totally geeked out the whole time. I loved talking about the throwing and the lifting. It's just, I could have gone another hour or 2 with him. It was like talking to an old throws coach, you know, it felt very comfortable. And yeah, I loved it. So if you get a chance to watch that. Okay, I think I covered pretty much all the ones in my emails. I didn't see any other independents. Greg, numerous pieces of equipment, 2 band sandbags, the gym is limited equipment, dumbbells, incorporated some of the speaker suggestions. What equipment do you suggest? Oh, so Greg got a question. And Greg, are you on? Yeah, Greg, you're on here. So I see your email about the 55 plus community training in the clubhouse, carrying equipment in with you. You can do so much with an anchor in bands. We're now like in our 6th week of programming for that, and I'm still creating new stuff. I do think you need some weights that you can do raises, overhead actions with. I think transferring heavier loads, if you can bring them in across the room and such, teaching them to carry groceries, etc. I think that's a good piece. But like basic equipment, I need a door anchor or something that I can hook bands to pull. Pulling's most important. I want at least 3 different types of band tensions: light, medium, heavy, very heavy if you can get a 4th one. And then I would say like a light set of dumbbells, something they are comfortable doing an aviator with. And then like a medium heavy, something they could do like 6-point rows or a single arm row with. So most clients, it's like 5s and 15s, something like that, right? So if I can bring in 4 bands, an anchor, and 2 sets of dumbbells, I can do a lot. I can do a lot with that. And then beyond that, just so you're not toting so much equipment in and out of different places and homes and places you're at. Beyond that, it's like kettlebells are great, but it's set, you know, and if a client's not able and ready to go to that yet, you know, you can't do a whole lot there. You can get a couple sets of light dumbbells, you know, 2 kilos, 4 kilos, 8 kilos, and kind of work from that. That'll give you some options. But then again, not everybody's comfortable, you know, holding and pressing kettlebells with it resting on their forearms. Dumbbells or fat bells. Those are fat bells. Where the hell are they? Those are fat bells right there. Center mass. Yeah, those guys. Great. Fat bells. We don't even use dumbbells here. We use those. Good research to support that, especially the older pops. Weight all the way around the wrist to support instead of side to side, which feeds to a lot of the arthritic issues. So TRX, a lot of clients are nervous, especially as they get older, to trust their own weight back to their grip. Where we're pulling on the band, they know they're not going anywhere and I can load more bands. So I feel pretty good with that. Handles are great to clip on. We use the orange Angle 90s. I don't see any behind me. I got a couple hanging up over there. Those are fantastic, so comfortable for the client. $80 for a pair, but they're like the Ferrari of handles. They're the best. You'll never go to another set of handles. That's about it. I mean, you get some sandbells, those guys, those right there, those are fun because you can throw them and they're soft to hold on to. Good things for clients to pick up. Those are like 4 pounds. I've got like a 8 and a 12 pounder. You can slam them on the ground. You can chuck them. They're soft enough where with like the 2 pounder, clients can throw them back and forth. They won't hurt themselves. Those are fun, easy to manipulate and move around. So I'd say 3 bands, a door anchor, your 2 sets of dumbbell, light, medium, heavy, maybe a sandbell or 2, maybe a kettlebell, medium to medium heavy, something like that. That should do it. I mean, really you need the bells and you need the dumbbells and the door anchors with the bands. Those are key. That was our set when we asked our clients, you know, you're going to come online, here's what you need. You need the set of mini bands, the little guys, and you need the 3 bands with the door anchor. That's our staple program. We have to have resistance somehow. And with that, I've got 100+ exercises I can do. I can hit every component. I can stay true to my values and my core training, and I can do all of it with that. And beyond that, we can add more stuff as we go. I've had clients that have asked, you know, I want to get dumbbells, I want to get this, and we can adjust it. But that's a staple minimum. I think you're going to get a lot of work done there, and it won't get monotonous. You know, you can be creative and continue to incorporate more stuff. All right, we started with 20. We're down to 7. I appreciate you all staying on for almost 2 hours. Anything else? Now's the time to ask it. Okay, now is the moment. I'm going to give you like 15 seconds. And if you have one, just type like, hold on, so I know that you're typing something. So I'll give you 15 seconds. I'm happy to answer whatever. Oh, okay, people are bailing. Okay, I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for being on here. Thank you for the questions. Christian Thompson and he promises he'll be here this time. He bailed on me last time. Tomorrow, we'll see you then. And then rigging with Rob